Hello and welcome to the first drive-through episode of 2021. I'm Catherine Hunter and this is Matt Bryan, and we're continuing our drive-through project where we discuss mental health awareness and how mental health matters. And obviously, since we recorded our last podcast before Christmas, there have been some severe and serious developments with the current pandemic that we are all living through. Schools have now closed, which was something that we touched on in our last episode when they were open, and there was a lot of uncertainty about whether they should remain open, whether they should be closed. And obviously we're now back in a situation similar to last March where we're unable to go to work unless it's absolutely essential. We should remain in our homes and not socialize with anybody unless it's absolutely necessary. And I think a lot of us, if we weren't feeling the January blues before, we definitely are now.
No, absolutely. I think it's quite funny how we were kind of worried about the kind of seasonal affective disorder in winter last time, and then to make that worse, we've now got an extended lockdown to contend with. So, like yourself, Catherine, I think we're all just a bit deflated by it all. We're all just a bit, you know, what's next? Can it be worse? It turns out it can. But I suppose what we're here to do is not only to kind of try and lift spirits a wee bit, but to try and just kind of break it down a wee bit, and just that kind of isolation factor, bring that kind of awareness to folk that we are all experiencing it, we are all going through things in different ways, but ultimately at the same time, and you know, you're not alone out there, you know, in terms of kind of suffering this this kind of new bout of depression, really, I suppose, to put it bluntly, that we're all kind of experiencing. Like you said there about schools as well, I think it's just kind of funny how that's happened. I really wish we'd maybe released our episode slightly sooner, just so we could so it almost looked as if we were, that our kind of call for schools to shut was kind of you know, on the back of that. But of course it's the pandemic has just got to a kind of serious situation now where it's, you know, we need to really stop the spread immediately. Just in, you know, schools, I think is a good move to close schools for the time being, just to do that, because, you know, it can spread in schools, as we touched on before. And you know, I think just with everything else, I think we just need to kind of bear with it.
Absolutely. And when it comes to schools as well, I think I personally was absolutely devastated when I heard of the new lockdown. When Christmas, well, wasn't cancelled, but we were originally promised a good few days to spend time with our families over Christmas, and then all of a sudden that was stopped in order to stop the spread of this new, more transmissible virus. And now finally the schools have been closed now until at least the beginning of February, but there's just no guarantee that they will reopen. And as we said before, the young people and young adults who are in these situations, going to school, trying to learn throughout a pandemic, they have a lot of anxiety and stress about COVID as it is, but now it's probably even worse. The stress and anxiety, I can only imagine, have been heightened. And from the young people I've been speaking to, they are very concerned, because again, there's so much uncertainty about what the future holds for them when it comes to exams and coursework and how they will be graded. But for me, my personal opinion, obviously we said before, we both have family, we've both got relatives that are in these situations. I'm quite relieved that they're closed, because I feel like my family are going to be a lot safer now. But I have heard mixed reactions to this new lockdown. Like, yeah, it's good that it's happened, but at the same time, a lot of young people do feel like they might fall behind in their learning. The education gap, an attainment gap might widen, might heighten, and there's just a lot to think about when it comes to this. So there's so much uncertainty when it comes to this pandemic.
I think what's happened is that you can't win now, so it's like it's albeit, you know, on one side you're saying, you know, pupils, teachers are safer because schools have closed, just like the same way that our offices have closed. We are essentially safer because that's happened. But the downside of that is obviously children aren't getting their education, they're not getting that level of engagement that they normally would inside a classroom. People do have exams coming up. People do have lots to contend with this year already, and they are stressing about that. So on the mental side of things, yeah, it's one thing worrying about your safety when you're mixing with people and and transmitting COVID, and then there's also the stress of when you're not there, you're missing out on your school, your education, things that are very important. We spoke about this last time briefly as well. It's very when we would naturally stress about exams coming up, coursework, things that you need to do, to kind of flourish in school. And now we're stressing about not being able to do that, and now we're obviously kind of stressing about the kind of COVID situation getting a wee bit more serious as well again, unfortunately.
And I think as well with the COVID situation getting worse, I don't know how you felt at the beginning of this, but a lot of people I was speaking to last March, and then obviously we had to deal with COVID during the summer months, was thank goodness we don't have to deal with this over Christmas, over New Year's when it's a lot colder. And we talked about seasonal affective disorder in our last episode, and I think a lot of people's SAD is probably going to be heightened again because they can't get out and about to do the things that they would normally do to try and help them cope with the winter blues, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's such a shame because SAD is actually such a long process. It's not really just as soon as the winter nights and then it's like a week or two. It's actually for months. I think in years gone by, we would always talk about the kind of January blues and what they kind of mean. I mean, for me, I never found that period. I think you told us last time that that's probably the worst period for you, but for me, I always think that's the point where we kind of say, right, okay, bit cheesy, but it's a new year, so let's just get what you want to achieve this year. Just look at it as a kind of a fresh start and look ahead. But it's been very hard to do that the last week or so because of the new lockdown. So that's been kind of brought to a whole any kind of aspirations we have of kind of facing 2021 head on and new start doing this is it has been kind of grounded because there's nothing you can do, the business has stopped, schools have stopped, work stopped, and a lot of people are just kind of wondering how long is this going to go on for, essentially.
Absolutely. And I think as well, there was a lot of posts on social media over the festive period, people saying, 2020 was a bad year, but 2021 is going to be so much better. But if you think about it, we're not just going to wake up one day and this thing's going to have gone, but it's still going to take a long, long time for COVID. Even
like if it was me, I mean, yeah, I'm not the kind of person doing a social media post as such, but if I was to do that, I couldn't because you can't really say that because 2021 has started just as bad as 2020 finished. So there's light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine, and I think what we're hearing is that it's going to be quite a long process and that, but now we're in a race to be vaccinated and limit the spread, hence the lockdown currently. It's just how we kind of live with that now, or can we bear with it a little longer? But I think if people had a better idea of the timescale, we might feel a wee bit better. I find it hard to bear with something when I don't know how long I'm bearing with it for. And I listen, probably hearing this in the tone of my voice today, I'm very deflated by it. It's not ideal. It's not where we want to be, and it's very harder to get your head where you want your head to be right now. When all we're hearing is the doom and gloom and how indefinite it's become as well.
Absolutely, and you're spot on as well, especially when you don't know when this is going to end. If we had a sort of rough date from the government or from health experts saying, oh, right, if we get a number of people vaccinated by, let's say, June or July, then perhaps we could get herd immunity or finally be able to get this virus under control. But I think that's a problem for so many people as well, is that we've been living through this since last March. There's still no end in sight. And we still don't know what's going on, if who's going to get vaccinated. Obviously, there are different groups of people who are like lined up for the vaccination, but it changes all the time. Who's going to get vaccinated, who isn't, who qualifies, who doesn't. And I think as well that it would just be so much better if we could. I know they probably don't want to give us false hope, which I completely understand. But I think a lot of people, if they knew when this was going to end, or if we were going to have a better Christmas this year, and then we'd maybe have a little bit more hope. But instead, it's just this relentless situation that we're in, and you just feel hopeless, feel kind of deflated as well, and it doesn't. And again, with the kind of the icy conditions that we're facing as well. As you're aware, that I'm a big believer in mindfulness, and it's really hard. You're allowed to go out and exercise outside as you were last summer, but it's harder right now.
How safe is that right now? Exactly.
I don't know.
I'm not dared to
my
go.
streets are treacherous. There's ice on all my steps, and I slip every single time I walk up and down them. So for a lot of people just will not want to go outside, and again, that'll make your mental health feel even worse.
Yeah, I've not dared went out for a run yet this year, so I fail already just walking, so that gives you a wee indication of it. The weather's like, and yeah, I mean, I know maybe she has to say that, our First Minister, I mean, obviously, is
she.
I'm just that used to kind of that kind of conversation with people just now.
Our Scottish followers will all know who the great she is.
Yeah, so I mean, but you know, listen, it's fine. It's like, so basically what's happening is that outlining the details of the new lockdown exercise is brought up because that is one of the reasons you're allowed to leave your house, and if anything, encouraged to. But basically, right now, you cannot do that because it's not safe. You can't go out running right now. Like I said a moment ago, I slipped just walking, so that just gives you the idea of how kind of dangerous it is just now. You can't really exercise outside. I know folk are getting quite used to like home workouts and stuff like that. But it's funny because all these things are coming up, but we're not kind of, our mindset isn't how it was maybe last spring, summer in the lockdown, when we were just like, we were actually quite upbeat about all this stuff during lockdown last year. We were actually, oh yeah, we can all kind of got along with it. There was actually a bit of unity there as well. But this time round, the lockdown is just like really quite stark. It's really quite hard hitting. It's like,
yeah, especially last lockdown, we thought, right, we'll be out of this in 3 months, and then things will begin to get back to normal. So we all thought, right, let's get a project going. I had like my fitness project, which I'm still kind of doing. I still like to try and keep myself healthy as possible. But I think this time round, people are just so sick and fed up of it. And I think it's really important to highlight, let's try and find some positivity within all of this, and let's try and find a project or something that we can do to keep our minds fulfilled and positive and focused on something, so that we feel like we're actually achieving something rather than just going through the motions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm quite positive for the most part. So I think what we have a kind of responsibility as well, just to kind of just to highlight, those kind of ways to kind of keep looking forward and stay focused. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's obviously been kind of harder to do that this time round in terms of how to kind of focus on. But I mean, like we kind of touched on last year as well, like we always kind of encourage ways to be creative, stay active, stay fit. So is it just a case of these things are harder to do now, or obviously we're still kind of encouraging that kind of stuff, aren't we?
Definitely. And I think you were telling me earlier that you actually are being creative, or aren't you?
Well, yeah. One of my hobbies is playing music, so I found that very therapeutic. But and just be a wee bit more creative in terms of actually kind of writing and kind of producing that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I mean, I'll probably go into that a wee bit more detail another time, because I think it's, if you've got hobbies like that, by just absolutely go at them, because it's like there's not really enough else to do now. If you can be creative, you get a real kick out of it anyway. What I'm saying is, you get we've released content before on creativity and how basically how kind of how much it kind of stimulates you. So
yeah, and one of our key contributors, Rebecca, she did a series on the power of creativity, and she gave people some ideas on how to get creative as well. So that's always something to look at if you're looking for something to do during this next lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't think people are going to be like as bored as they were in the last lockdown. I think people have just don't have the motivation to do stuff to kind of, it's I'm trying to think of an example of something I would normally be doing right now, but instead I'm just kind of, not doing it, but just kind of being a lot more vacant anyway, in terms of, just not having the motivation to do something. But yeah, like you said, one thing that's kind of got me through recently is just kind of like picking up the guitar again, playing a bit of music, creating a bit, writing, and just kind of messing about with just different recording software and things like that. So that's just one thing I do know. I mean, if you've got any kind of creative habits, get right back into them. I know a lot of people got into drawing and stuff last time, and painting. Yeah, and it's it's something, if you can do it. And it's obviously like, I think most people are still kind of working from home and stuff, so it's like, so again, it's still making time for yourself, isn't it? I think we were quite, I mean, we always say that anyway, just about about self-kindness, and actually making the time for yourself is one of the kind of biggest ways of doing that.
Absolutely, and like you said, there's so many different ways to do that, whether it be drawing or playing an instrument. And what you said about like not giving that up, I play violin and piano as well, and obviously like I've not been able to go to like any of my orchestra rehearsals in not over a year, but about a year. And this time last year, I'd be finishing off a like Christmas concert and be getting ready for a new concert in the spring. And music is one of the greatest things, and it does definitely brings me inner peace, and I think it does the same for you as well, and it can just relax you and help give you that little bit of focus or energy to do something, whether that be, well, it could be any type of music at all. And yeah, I think it's bad enough at this time of year anyway, with people lacking the motivation to do things, but it's possibly worse right now, because I think we're a lot of people are just giving up hope. They just don't think this is ever going to end.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of things we touched on. There, I think we're just kind of obviously maybe talking from personal experience just now, but it probably does go for a lot of kind of creative kind of hobbies like that. Like, I mean, for me, like music like feeds the soul, if you like, so it's like, and I'm not meaning that in a kind of whimsical way. It's just more that it's the point there is that it's internal. You're actually doing it yourself within. You're doing it to please you. Like, like nobody really knows what I really get up to when I do stuff like that. But at the same time, it's most kind of satisfying for me, because I'm not, it's a wee bit like, I don't know, it's, I don't know, but I feel like I'm less on social media just now as well, right? So maybe that's because there's just less things to do and put on Instagram or whatever. But at the same time, there's a kind of inner satisfaction there, because anything that I am doing, so maybe more time I'm doing that, and maybe kind of spending strumming the guitar or whatever, but that doesn't go anywhere. Therefore, I'm not using that to please anybody else. I'm doing that to please me, and that's a that's a lot more satisfying. That's a lot more, I don't know, that's just, I think that just makes you happier. I don't know if that's a really deep way of looking at it. But,
no, I completely agree with you, and I recognize what you're saying. Like, if I'm learning a new piece in the piano and I manage to do it, I don't go posting about it in social media. I keep that achievement to myself, and it's something that's mine and that I can do, and it does go deeper, and it's something that's just so satisfying.
Right, well, excuse the sudden editing here anyway. We are recording in the evening, and I've had to put a light on, and I can't remember the position of the camera either. So, but no, I think what we were just talking about there is just maybe ways of kind of beating the kind of the sad and the the kind of lockdown blues as it is again. I can't believe we're saying stuff like that again, but it is where we're at. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we're just trying to put a kind of better light on things, aren't we, Catherine?
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that have been following us for a while, you'll know that we're very passionate about mindfulness and the power of positivity and a positive mindset. So I suppose what I've been trying to do is, although this is very trying in a very hard circumstance, is to try and make the most of it. And like you said, it's good to keep hobbies, or to take on new hobbies, or to keep on top of old hobbies, and just to try and make the most of a bad situation. I've personally last year got into. I've always been quite a keen walker, but last year I kind of got into hill walking quite a bit. So I've been quite lucky in that I've managed to find quite a lot of local walks. I've joined a lot of kind of virtual walking groups where we all share pictures and ideas of where you can walk in like your local countryside. So I've been doing that in my time off and just taking the time and putting on my walking boots and just trying to get out and about and get away from it all. As cliche as it sounds, it does definitely help to clear away the cobwebs. And it's also good as well because it's something that you can do again and again. It's free. And you don't obviously meet an awful lot of people on these walks, so you're sticking by the rules, but it's still something that's fun, and it's still allows you to, I suppose, forget the trying times that we're in.
Yeah, I think we touched on a wee bit as well, just getting that we kind of maybe walk in your lunch break we mentioned last time, because I forgot I totally mentioned it till I was putting the last episode back up, and that's why I ended up kind of started walking when I went back to work this week and last week and in the new year, and it was all icy. That's when I fell and I was like, oh no. So
I mean, I know I've said I've not left the house because it's so icy, but before I got scared, I was out every single day with my boots on.
Oh no, totally. Like, and it's that kind of day, like, because like I say that I don't know if the days are technically getting getting longer now. So, but yeah, they do get dark, like, you know, kind of like super early still. So, yeah, so it's just a case of I don't know, just kind of bearing with it, looking after yourself that way, and looking after each other as well, because that's kind of
yeah, don't forget to check in on your friends and your family as well, because I don't know about you, but I've got quite a lot of friends that sometimes I don't hear from them for a long time anyway, and that's just the type of friendship that it is. But if I don't hear from them in an especially long time, then I'm going to get worried, and you just don't know how people are coping or not coping. It's just really important to keep in touch, because that human contact could make or break someone's day.
No, absolutely. I think that's the important thing. It's probably a good time to check in on people you've not heard from in a while, actually, because there's absolutely nothing else happening right now at this time of year, in a normal year, let alone when you're by law not allowed to do anything. So no, it's just no. I mean, certainly do that. You know, keep looking after each other, and you know, like, you know, we are getting through it. You know, and like I said, I think just the COVID aside, it's just it's actually quite normally quite a tough time of year this. So we are just trying to make a lot more kind of awareness of it. A lot of people, like I said last time, a lot of people are experiencing SAD on some degree. So just be aware of that. That one, you're not alone, and two, be wary to check in on people that are maybe potentially worse than you, potentially just they're the same, going through the same experience, but perhaps in a different way.
Yeah, and there are loads of ways to try and recognize if somebody is experiencing a change in their mental health and their moods. And especially right now, I think that's just really, really important to highlight, because somebody that you might see as a person that doesn't have any mental health problems or has everything going from them could be, I suppose, fighting a sort of an inner demon, if you excuse that expression. Especially, I've said the word especially so many times now, but as we
very special.
It is very. But right now it's just so important, because we both know what it's like to not feel 100% mentally and still go on, and we've adapted to coping mechanisms where we whack on a Cheshire cat grin and just get on with the day. But somebody who's never ever experienced that before might start behaving a wee bit differently. They might be a wee bit more distant, a bit more quiet, might take time to respond to your messages, might not have much to say. And there are just little things that you can like notice and just check in on them, just tell them that you're there for them, that to listen to them, that you can help if you can. I mean, you can't obviously you can't cure someone, but just listening to them, offering them a cup of tea, obviously if it's safe to do so, can help. There's so many ways that people struggle in silence, and it's unnoticeable because we have learned as a nation to cover up our feelings and to hide how we are feeling, because we've been raised as a nation to believe that it's a sign of weakness to experience any sort of mental health problem, and it's not a sign of weakness at all. And that's just something that we're really, really like striving to promote, that mental health is not a sign of weakness, and we need to be there for each other and to encourage one another to talk and to take the time to improve in our mental health and help the well-being of others.
Yeah, it's a dated stigma that we are trying to stamp out, Catherine, and I think that's very clear in a lot of our kind of content. It's just funny, something I picked up on you saying there about people that are maybe like experiencing this kind of mental health lull right now for the first time. Not necessarily sad, but because like a lot of things have now compounded to the point that it's like, wow, nothing is getting better. I've totally dipped in this last year. Do you think that's the case? I think there's like a new wave of like kind of mental health issues coming out now?
I mean, they've been saying since the start of the pandemic that we're going to be facing a mental health crisis when all this is over. But I think that we've been facing a mental health crisis for years, and it's just getting worse. Maybe people didn't realize they were experiencing mental health before, because a lot of people don't realize that they have mental health, if that makes sense. Whenever somebody tries to talk to you about their mental health, they try and, well, I'm not saying this is everybody, but sometimes if I'm talking to someone about their mental health, they'll try and sort of make light of it, or make out that it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In a way that they wouldn't do if with their physical health. When I try and talk to them about it, I try and point out, I was like, well, everybody does have mental health. Everybody's got mental health difficulties, just some to more extent than the others. I mean, everybody will have a down day from time to time. But I think now a lot of people have been made redundant. They've lost their jobs. Uni students who didn't know if they'd be able to get home over Christmas, or studying from home, not having the uni experience that they wanted or expected to have. I think as well, that's going to have an impact on people. And like you say, it'll mount up and up and up, and it'll be little things. It doesn't have to be a big thing like mental health.
Yeah, no, that's what you're saying. There's more things to get you down right now. That's kind of the problem. I think when we look back in years to come, and there's like a very obvious step in, I don't know, like mental health services in terms of stuff being used, it'll be easy just to pin it on COVID and say, well, all these tangible things are happening. But I think what we're saying as well, that we were kind of getting that way in a way. Like there was a lot of, signs that, like a lot of people weren't coping. And, we touched on the suicide statistics last time we were on as well. And that's from before the pandemic, obviously. So like, and they had increased, by the way, sadly. So it's something that is becoming more stark and shocking every year. And yeah, absolutely, I'm all for like having more of a regular kind of tab on these things as well. But yeah, like I said, I think there probably is people that maybe had been lucky enough to kind of not be too bad with like depression or stuff for quite a while, but since kind of COVID's hit, a lot of circumstantial and contextual factors have have caused a dip in their mental health also, and it's quite important to recognise that, because that for people is for the first time they're experiencing something as bad and is I don't know, is gut wrenching, I suppose, in a way, because it's that's essentially what it is. I wanted to share this today as well. It just came to my head a moment ago. I was just doing a bit of networking online for the site and stuff, and I came across this Facebook page called Justice for Mental Health, and obviously the name just kind of just kind of came back. I mean, it's just when we were talking about the stigma and stuff there not long ago. And I was thinking that's quite an interesting way of putting it. It's almost like a real kind of solid movement, to make this heard. And it's not too different in terms of what we are kind of saying. It's like, it's like we're wanting a condition to be, a very broad area of conditions to be validated. And I suppose that's what it is. And there's so many different kind of ways. I don't know what you thought of that. Do you think that's quite strong, or is that?
I do, and it is very strong, and I think it's very powerful, and I think that's really important because it'll grab people's attention and maybe get them to sit up and think a wee bit more about mental health in a way that they never have done before. But it also reminds me of an Instagram post that I came across at the beginning of lockdown, the first one many years ago, which was something that really hit hard home for me. And there were a lot, I can't remember the exact words, but it's basically highlighting to people that are dying to get back to normal, like back to the way things were. It was, well, why would you want to go back to the way things were? Because we weren't living in a mental health utopium in the first place. Things were already hard. And I think if there's anything that this year has taught us is that we need justice for mental health, and we need to stand up and we need to make a change. And our working conditions and our living conditions and our everyday things that we take for granted in everyday lives, or things that are hard for us, we need to make a change so that we can, or maybe not us, but things need to change so that our mental health doesn't suffer as a result.
So it can exist in a safe space. I think that's what probably just kind of unconsciously kind of quoting a lot of stuff we've maybe kind of said in the past year, obviously, but that's what it is, isn't it? We want it. These things aren't new, they already existed. We just now want them to exist in a safe space and a more accepting kind of environment.
We do all need to come together and to find a way that we can continue to live our lives the way we want to, the way that we think that we deserve, but also, like you said, that are safe, that's not going to have an impact on us physically or mentally, and just allow us to be happy.
Yeah, well, I'll close that kind of summary of something really cheesy, because without these stressors in your life, without these kind of mental factors that we all do live with, without them being allowed to live in a safe space, you're never going to be able to thrive as such. And I think that's quite an important point, because we're not breeding positivity. We are trying to say that it's there already, and and like you said, you fully deserve to be living that part of your life, that kind of best part of you, and that's where the real kind of enjoyment and satisfaction in life comes from. And yeah, I think that's where we should all be kind of aiming for collectively.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, and looking ahead, we're going to be continuing our mental health campaign and justice for mental health campaign as well. We are going to be looking a wee bit and further into the Children's Mental Health Awareness Week, which runs from the 1st to the 7th of February. So if anybody has any ideas or wants to get in touch regarding content for that, please do get in touch. Our websites is www.thrivethru.co.uk, where you can access our podcast and all the other episodes as well. You can also access them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts as well.
Yeah, that's the new one, isn't it? Google. Yeah, no, as I say, like I say, like we spoke about this before, Catherine, we're always very, very keen to just keep engaging with the audience as well, just so that we're actually tackling issues that do matter to people, because we're saying that mental health impacts every single individual, so we need to know what these issues are, and we're very, very keen to hear what we can explore in the Childhood Mental Health Week as well. All our socials, our inboxes are open, so we look forward to engaging with you in the next few weeks.
Absolutely, and we hope you all stay safe.